But an extraordinary 10-minute revelation last night by David Letterman here at the Ed Sullivan Theater. He told his audience he had allegedly been the victim of attempted blackmail.
The real David Letterman was nothing like his TV character. Behind the jokes was a man who cheated on his wife with multiple staff members, bullied female guests until they cried, and got caught in a $2 million blackmail scandal. But did he face consequences? Nope. He just retreated to his enormous 108-acre country palace that most Americans could never imagine owning. David Letterman was born on April 12, 1947, in Indianapolis, Indiana. His father, Harry Joseph Letterman, was a florist. His mother, Dorothy, worked as a church secretary. He grew up in the Broad Ripple neighborhood, not far from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That sparked a love for racing that stayed with him for life. As a kid, Letterman had a natural talent for making people laugh. He admired his father's ability to tell jokes and entertain a crowd. But there was always a sense of fear in the back of his mind. When Letterman was young, his father suffered a heart attack at 36. Though he survived, the experience left a lasting impact. The fear of losing him never really faded. In 1973, when Letterman was 26, his father had a second heart attack and didn't survive. At Broad Ripple High School, Letterman's sense of humor became more obvious. He wasn't the best student, but he had a way of making people laugh. He worked part-time as a stockboy at Atlas Supermarket while attending school. He originally wanted to go to Indiana University, but didn't have the grades. Instead, he enrolled at Ball State University in Muncie. At the time, it probably felt like settling for less, but that decision shaped his future. Letterman majored in telecommunications at Ball State's Department of Radio and Television. He later joked that he was a C student, and in 1985, he even created a scholarship for students with average grades. While his academics were unremarkable, his love for broadcasting was growing. He joined the Sigma Chi fraternity and started working at the campus radio station, WBST. But his humor got him into trouble. While writing biographies of classical composers, he added jokes. He claimed Claude Debussy wrote music for Clair de Lune and all their little loons. Station management didn't find it funny. After just 1 week, Letterman was fired. That didn't stop him. Determined to keep working in radio, he and a few classmates started their own station, WAGOAM 570, which later became WCRD. This gave him the creative freedom he wanted. Little by little, he started finding his comedic voice. In 1969, after graduating from Ball State, Letterman landed a job at WLWI-TV in Indianapolis, now known as WTHR. He worked as a weatherman, but his approach was far from traditional. He added jokes to his forecasts, congratulating a tropical storm for being upgraded to a hurricane, and warning viewers about hail the size of canned hams. His unconventional style made him stand out. Along with weather reporting, he hosted a Saturday morning children's show and worked as a late-night movie host. But it was clear that regular broadcasting wasn't the right fit for him. His humor was too unpredictable. In 1975, David Letterman packed up his life in Indianapolis and moved to Los Angeles. It wasn't just a change of address, it was a leap into the unknown. His wife, Michelle Cook, and his Sigma Chi fraternity friends encouraged him to take the risk. He left behind a steady job as a radio talk show host and set out for something bigger. Their belongings went into Letterman's red pickup truck, a vehicle he held on to for decades, and they drove west. Los Angeles in the mid-70s was the center of the comedy world. The Tonight Show had moved from New York to Burbank in 1972, and comedians from across the country rushed to the city, hoping for a shot at fame. Letterman started small, performing at places like the Showbiz, a bar run by Murray Langston, who later became famous as the unknown comic. Money was tight, and he lived in North Hollywood while trying to break into the scene. But his quick wit and dry humor stood out. Jimmy Walker, star of Good Times, noticed his talent and hired him to write jokes alongside Jay Leno and Louis Anderson. By 1977, Letterman's marriage to Michelle had ended. It wasn't messy or dramatic. He later said they had simply grown apart. His personal life was shifting, but his career was moving forward. He had found a place in the comedy world, and his next big step came at the Comedy Store. The Comedy Store wasn't just a club. It was where the best comedians tested their material and proved they belonged. Letterman performed alongside legends like Richard Pryor, Robin Williams, and Paul Mooney. Mitzi Shore, the club's owner, had a sharp eye for talent and gave comedians the freedom to experiment. Letterman's style was different. While others relied on high-energy delivery, he kept his humor low-key and sarcastic. He could take an ordinary idea and twist it into something hilarious. Comedian Gary Mule Deer remembered one of Letterman's early jokes. The management of WNAS would like to state they are diametrically opposed to the use of orphans as yardage markers at driving ranges. At the Comedy Store, competition was fierce, but the comedians also pushed each other to improve. Jay Leno and Paul Mooney often sat in the back, critiquing sets, giving notes, and raising the bar. It was the perfect place for Letterman to sharpen his skills. But even more important, it was where he caught the attention of the people who could change his career. In 1978, he got his first shot on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. One appearance could make a comedian's career, and Letterman made an impression. Carson invited him back multiple times over the next 2 years, something that didn't happen often. By 1980, Carson trusted him enough to make him a regular guest host. Letterman later said Carson taught him everything about hosting: how to time a joke, how to read an audience, and how to make guests comfortable while keeping things entertaining. Their relationship went beyond television. Carson admired Letterman's talent and even sent him jokes for his monologues long after retiring. When Carson passed away in 2005, Letterman dedicated an entire monologue to jokes written by his mentor. In 1992, NBC chose Jay Leno over Letterman to replace Carson as host of The Tonight Show. Many believed Carson had wanted Letterman to take over. But despite the network's decision, Letterman had already built a legacy that would only grow stronger in the years to come. Before he became a late-night legend, Letterman took on various TV roles in the late 1970s. Some worked, others didn't. In 1977, NBC gave him a shot with The Riddlers, a game show pilot that never made it to air. A year later, he joined Mary, a variety show starring Mary Tyler Moore. It lasted only 3 episodes, but it introduced audiences to his sarcastic style. His first big break came with the Starland Vocal Band show in 1977, a summer variety series where he worked as both a writer and performer. These early gigs didn't make him a star, but they helped him refine his humor: self-aware, sharp, and always a little offbeat. Then in 1980, NBC gave him The David Letterman Show, a morning talk show unlike anything else on TV. It had traditional interviews, but also featured absurd bits like elevator races and audience members sent on bizarre errands. The show only lasted 3 months. Daytime viewers weren't ready for Letterman's style, but critics loved it. It even won 2 Daytime Emmy Awards for writing. More importantly, it set the stage for what came next. Every failed show, every joke that landed, and every lesson from Carson led him to Late Night with David Letterman. When Late Night with David Letterman premiered on NBC on February 1st, 1982, it wasn't just another talk show. It was unpredictable, irreverent, and unlike anything audiences had seen before. The first episode set the tone right away. Instead of a traditional opening monologue, viewers saw Larry "Bud" Melman delivering a parody of Boris Karloff's Frankenstein prologue. Then came the first guest, Bill Murray, who burst onto the stage with chaotic energy. He accused Letterman of stealing his material, wrestled with the host, and even performed aerobics to Olivia Newton-John's physical alongside a crew member. It was weird, it was hilarious, and it was just the beginning. What made Late Night stand out was its complete disregard for the usual late-night formula. Instead of polished interviews and predictable jokes, the show embraced absurdity. Segments like Stupid Pet Tricks let everyday people show off their animals' bizarre talents. A dog that could skateboard, a cat that played the piano. The segment became so popular, it was later turned into its own show in 2021. Then there was Stupid Human Tricks, where contestants performed equally ridiculous feats. In 1994, Annabella Almeida shocked audiences with her jaw-dropping flexibility, bending her body in ways that seemed impossible. These bits weren't just filler, they became cultural touchstones. Letterman's chemistry with his band leader, Paul Schaffer, added another layer to the madness. Their sarcastic back and forth turned the show into a running commentary on itself. Traditional late-night hosts followed a script. Letterman made fun of the script. He tossed objects off a 5-story building just to see what would happen. He wore Velcro suits and threw himself against a wall. One time, he even conducted an entire interview in a suit covered in magnets, attracting metal objects throughout the conversation. It was unpredictable, and that was the point. This offbeat style was a direct challenge to Johnny Carson's polished approach on The Tonight Show. Carson was smooth and professional. Letterman tore apart the very idea of a talk show. He made fun of guests, his network, even himself. That rebellious attitude made Late Night a cult favorite, especially among college students and young adults. Over its 11-year run on NBC, the show racked up 5 Emmy Awards and 35 nominations, cementing its status as one of television's most groundbreaking programs. One of Letterman's greatest contributions to comedy was the Top 10 list. It debuted on September 18, 1985, with a deliberately ridiculous theme: the top 10 words that almost rhyme with peas. The list was absurd, but the structure was perfect. A slow build-up, a drum roll, a countdown that made every entry funnier by sheer anticipation. Audiences ate it up. Over the years, Letterman delivered 4,605 top 10 lists, 1,009 on NBC's Late Night, and 3,596 on CBS's Late Show. The idea came from head writer Steve O'Donnell, who was poking fun at the pointless lists published in newspapers. But the segment became much bigger than a parody. Celebrities often got in on the joke. John Malkovich once read, "10 things that sound creepy when said by John Malkovich." When Letterman retired in 2015, a parade of stars took turns delivering the final top 10 list. The beauty of the segment was how it played with expectations. The number 1 entry was often deliberately underwhelming, making it funnier by contrast. It also reflected Letterman's ability to balance satire with real-world events. After September 11th, the show ran Top 10 Ways Osama bin Laden Can Improve His Image. The list had only 1 entry. Number 10. There's no way he can improve his image. He's a soulless. Simple, direct, and brutally effective. Letterman's humor wasn't just edgy, it was confrontational. He had no problem making guests uncomfortable. In one of his most infamous interviews, Cher flat out called him an asshole on air. Madonna's appearance was equally tense as she clashed with Letterman over her use of profanity. Some celebrities loved the unpredictability. Others never returned. But whether an interview was funny, awkward, or completely off the rails, it was always compelling. Beyond interviews, Letterman took absurdity to new levels. Segments like "Will It Float?" were as pointless as they were hilarious. He and Schaffer would drop random objects into a tank of water, guessing whether they would sink or float. The concept was ridiculous, but the deadpan execution made it work. Letterman also loved making fun of his own network. He regularly mocked NBC executives, openly criticized programming decisions, and even staged on-air feuds with General Electric, NBC's parent company. In 1993, David Letterman made a career move that changed late-night television. For more than a decade, he had been hosting Late Night with David Letterman on NBC. Many believed he would take over The Tonight Show after Johnny Carson retired. Even Carson reportedly wanted him as his successor, but NBC gave the job to Jay Leno instead. Letterman felt overlooked, and CBS saw an opportunity. They offered him a contract worth $14 million a year, twice what he was making at NBC. It was an offer he couldn't ignore. CBS wasn't just bringing in Letterman. They wanted to make a statement. They bought the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York City for $4.5 million and completely transformed it. The building was old and needed serious work. They reduced the seating from 1,265 to 400 to create a more intimate setting. Soundproofing was improved to keep out the noise of Manhattan. The stained glass windows were removed and carefully stored. The interior plasterwork was restored to bring back the theater's classic look. A team of 200 workers finished the renovation in just 12 weeks. On August 30th, 1993, The Late Show with David Letterman premiered on CBS. The show was an instant success. Letterman's sharp humor and unpredictable energy drew in audiences. For a while, he even outperformed Leno in the ratings. His move to CBS had paid off. Over the years, The Late Show became known for its wild and unforgettable moments. One of the most famous happened on April 12, 1995, Letterman's 48th birthday. Drew Barrymore was a guest on the show. At one point, she jumped onto his desk, danced, and flashed him on live television. The moment became legendary, perfectly capturing the freewheeling nature of Letterman's show. In January 2000, Letterman faced something far more serious. He needed emergency quintuple heart bypass surgery. Just 5 weeks later, he returned to The Late Show. His comeback episode was both emotional and hilarious. He joked about his surgery, but also took time to thank the medical team who saved his life. He even invited them on stage. It was one of the most watched episodes in the show's history, proving once again how deeply connected he was with his audience. Beyond hosting, Letterman was also a smart businessman. In 1991, he started his own production company, Worldwide Pants Incorporated. It wasn't just for The Late Show. It produced other hit shows, including The Late Late Show and the hugely popular sitcom Everybody Loves Raymond. The sitcom ran for 9 seasons from 1996 to 2005 and won multiple Emmy Awards. It became one of CBS's biggest successes. Worldwide Pants had a unique way of working. Instead of controlling every project, it provided initial funding and let networks handle the rest. This approach allowed more creative freedom while keeping financial risks low. The company even expanded into film production, backing projects like Strangers with Candy, which premiered at Sundance in 2005. Even after Letterman retired in 2015, Worldwide Pants kept ownership of his vast archive of shows, securing his legacy in entertainment. That legacy hit a historic moment in April 2013. Letterman officially became the longest-serving late-night talk show host in American history, surpassing Johnny Carson. Over his career, he hosted a total of 6,080 episodes, spanning 33 years across NBC and CBS. David Letterman's life has been full of twists and turns, not just on television, but in his personal relationships too. He married Michelle Cook on July 2, 1968. They had met at Ball State University, where he was still figuring out his future. Michelle saw something in him early on. She encouraged him to take comedy seriously and even convinced him to move to Los Angeles. That decision changed his life. Starting out in LA was tough. Letterman had left behind a stable job as a weatherman in Indianapolis to chase a dream that didn't come with guarantees. Money was tight, and success didn't happen overnight. The stress of building a career took a toll on their marriage. As Letterman started getting recognized in the mid-1970s, the distance between them grew. In 1977, after 9 years together, they divorced. The relationship ended, but Michelle's influence on his career remained. Without her belief in him, things might have turned out differently. In February 1986, Letterman's personal life got complicated. He started dating Regina Lasco while still living with Merrill Markoe, his then-girlfriend and the head writer for Late Night with David Letterman. That marked the beginning of a relationship that would last for decades. Regina worked in television and later became a production manager for The Late Show. For years, Letterman avoided marriage. His first divorce had left him cautious. Regina wanted more commitment, but he hesitated. He even joked about it in interviews. After 23 years together, he finally married her on March 19, 2009, in a simple courthouse ceremony in Choteau, Montana. Their marriage faced a major test just 6 months later. On October 1, 2009, Letterman stood on stage and admitted to having affairs with female staff members. The confession wasn't planned. A CBS News producer had tried to blackmail him for $2 million, threatening to expose the affairs. Instead of paying, Letterman told the world himself. The scandal was humiliating. Regina had to deal with the public fallout while trying to process her own pain. But despite the betrayal, she chose to stay. They worked through it, and over time, their marriage remained intact. It was a rough chapter, but it didn't break them. Letterman became a father late in life. His son, Harry Joseph Letterman, was born on November 3, 2003, when Letterman was 56. Becoming a father changed everything for him. He often talked about how Harry softened him, making him see life differently. Then came a terrifying moment. In 2005, when Harry was just 16 months old, police uncovered a plot to kidnap him. Kelly Frank, a former employee at Letterman's Montana ranch, planned to demand a $5 million ransom. Thankfully, authorities stopped the plan before anything could happen. The incident was a wake-up call. Being famous didn't just bring success, it brought dangers too. In October 2009, Letterman shocked his audience by revealing that someone had tried to blackmail him for $2 million. The man behind the extortion attempt was Robert Halderman, a CBS producer, who had discovered that Letterman had been involved in sexual relationships with female staff members. Halderman had left a package in Letterman's car containing evidence, emails, diary entries, and personal details from one of Letterman's assistants, Stephanie Burkett. The situation was messy. Burkett had also been romantically involved with Halderman before, which added another layer of drama. Instead of paying up, Letterman went straight to law enforcement. A sting operation was set up, and Halderman was given a fake $2 million check. As soon as he tried to cash it, he was arrested. That part was handled, but Letterman still had to face the public. He decided to confess everything on The Late Show in his usual style, mixing honesty with humor. Instead of destroying his career, the scandal had the opposite effect. His ratings jumped 19%, and 5.7 million people tuned in over the next few days. Even though the public mostly shrugged it off, the scandal raised questions about workplace ethics. Letterman admitted to having relationships with subordinates, but never directly apologized to the women involved. Some felt he was using humor to downplay a serious issue. Others saw his confession as a smart way to control the damage. Either way, his career survived. Halderman wasn't as lucky. He pleaded guilty to attempted grand larceny and was sentenced to 6 months in jail. Long before that scandal, Letterman's behavior in interviews had already raised concerns. In 1998, he shocked Jennifer Aniston by leaning in and sucking on a strand of her hair without warning. She looked visibly uncomfortable as he laughed it off. In 2007, Paris Hilton appeared on The Late Show to promote a new fragrance. But instead of talking about her project, Letterman kept pressing her about her recent jail time. She eventually told him he was hurting her feelings and that she regretted coming on the show. One of the most criticized moments came in 2013, when Lindsay Lohan appeared to promote Scary Movie 5. She had agreed to discuss her film, but Letterman kept bringing up her struggles with addiction and her time in rehab. The interview turned awkward fast. Lohan hadn't expected those questions, and the conversation felt more like an ambush than a late-night talk show appearance. At the time, these moments were brushed off as part of Letterman's edgy humor. Years later, they resurfaced in a different light. Critics pointed out how often women in entertainment had been treated unfairly by the media. Some of Letterman's old interviews started to feel less like comedy and more like examples of a much bigger problem. Letterman's feuds with celebrities only added to his reputation for being unpredictable. His long-running tension with Oprah Winfrey lasted 16 years. It started with a few jokes, but escalated after he pulled a prank, claiming that Oprah would pay his restaurant bill while they were both on vacation. She was reportedly so offended that she refused to appear on his show for over a decade. They didn't make peace until 2005. His rivalry with Jay Leno was even more intense. In 1992, Johnny Carson retired from The Tonight Show, and most people expected Letterman to take over. Even Carson preferred him. But NBC gave the job to Leno instead, leading to years of bitterness, competition, and public jabs. Their feud lasted for nearly 2 decades, only softening in 2010 when they appeared together in a Super Bowl commercial alongside Oprah. The moment was unexpected, but it helped put an end to one of late-night TV's biggest rivalries. David Letterman stepped away from The Late Show on May 20, 2015, after 33 years in late-night television. It was the end of an era. Over the course of his career, he hosted 6,028 shows and interviewed nearly 20,000 guests. His final episode was packed with stars. Bill Murray, Jerry Seinfeld, and Tina Fey all made appearances. Even 4 U.S. presidents, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, joined in on the farewell. They appeared in a video message, joking, "Our long national nightmare is over." It was a perfect send-off for a man who had spent decades blending humor with sharp wit. Letterman's influence on television was undeniable. Between Late Night on NBC from 1982 to 1993 and The Late Show on CBS from 1993 to 2015, he collected 16 Emmy Awards out of 112 nominations. His first Emmy came in 1984 for Outstanding Writing on Late Night, and he won 4 more for writing before moving to CBS. At The Late Show, he won 9 additional Emmys across multiple categories. In 2015, he received the Peabody Award for Individual Achievement, an honor rarely given to talk show hosts. Other major recognitions followed, including the Kennedy Center Honors in 2012 and the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor in 2017. But Letterman's real impact wasn't just in awards, it was in the way he changed late-night television. He turned absurdity into comedy gold with segments like Stupid Pet Tricks and Top 10 Lists. He made his bandleader, Paul Schaffer, a celebrity in his own right. His interviews were unpredictable. Sometimes they were hilarious. Sometimes they turned awkward, but they were never boring. He shaped a generation of comedians. Jon Stewart, Jimmy Kimmel, and Stephen Colbert have all credited him as a major influence. When Letterman retired, many assumed he would fade from the spotlight. Instead, he launched My Next Guest Needs No Introduction on Netflix in 2018. This was a different kind of show. There was no desk, no band, no sidekick. Instead, each episode focused on a single in-depth interview. His first guest was Barack Obama, marking Obama's first interview after leaving office. Over the next few seasons, Letterman sat down with guests like Malala Yousafzai, Billie Eilish, and Volodymyr Zelensky. In 2022, he traveled to Kiev to interview Zelensky in the middle of the war with Russia. The episode was a clear sign of how much My Next Guest had evolved. It wasn't just a talk show, it was a platform for serious conversations. Letterman's ability to mix humor with meaningful discussion made the series one of Netflix's most successful talk shows. It earned multiple Emmy nominations and proved he could still connect with audiences in a completely new format. Beyond television, Letterman has remained deeply involved with Ball State University, where he graduated in 1969. Over the years, he has donated more than 1,000 pieces of memorabilia to the school. Many of these items are displayed in the David Letterman Experience, an exhibit housed in the university's Communication and Media Building. His contributions go beyond memorabilia. He has funded scholarships for students pursuing careers in media and established a lecture series that has brought big names like Oprah Winfrey and Rachel Maddow to campus. Away from the cameras, Letterman's retreat is his massive estate in North Salem, New York. The property spans 108 acres and features a 7,816-square-foot mansion with 6 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms. Built in 1986, the home combines traditional design with modern luxury. It includes a swimming pool, a pool house, and multiple guest houses. Letterman purchased 88 acres in 1994 for $5 million, then added another 20 acres in 2007 for nearly $5 million more. Today, the estate is estimated to be worth $6.2 million, though its value has likely grown due to its celebrity owner. Letterman didn't just retire, he evolved. He left behind the desk, but not the conversations. He stepped away from network television, but found a new home in streaming. He remains one of the most influential figures in entertainment, proving that reinvention is just another chapter in a great career.